Okay, and welcome back. It's Monday, and that means it's time to split this third hour with Michael Collins and Yoichi Shimatsu. Let's go first to wonderful Southern California and find out if Michael Collins is doing well at the Collins residence. How are you, Michael?
I am just fine, Jeff. Yes, we are just fine down here at Radiation Station Santa Monica, and which was up and running during our entire jaunt through America that we took.
Right.
And we went through over a dozen states and tested multiple media for Fukushima fallout radiation, and the results were very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We first landed in Utah, and there was a storm coming in that was one of the first in a long time. We happened to hit a series of storms that didn't end the drought in Utah and Colorado and some of the Great Plains, but it certainly was a nice dent in it. Also a little hot compared to background in Richfield, Utah on the 25th of October. It was about 73% over background. I won't say, no, well, that's not that much. Well, that's not true. You have to think about what it is. We made sure to sample up in Utah during this rain a healthy time after it had started raining.
Mm-hmm.
So gets all that radon progeny out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that anything over background is coming from somewhere. And it's coming on the jet stream from Fukushima. And what's coming on the jet stream is so harmful and powerful as radionuclides that if you have background plus 73% of it, again, not good. Moving over into Colorado, it started to go down in Grand Junction, Colorado. It was about 22% above.
Now, are you, Michael, excuse me, are you flying or are you driving?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We were driving.
That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're
otherwise
very reticent.
You would
very
have
reticent to get in the plane.
Okay.
Sorry.
Otherwise, you would have been in a puddle jumper. Those are little jumps. All right.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. We fired up the Enviro Mobile and went out and tested.
Is that the one where Denise has to pedal?
Actually, I did most of the driving, and she does a lot of the science. She does a lot of the filming, and we'll have a lot of photographs.
Oh, good.
Of what we found coming up. We just put online a test that we did in Colorado on the 25th of snow from this storm east of Denver on the high plains out there, and it's unbelievable, Jeff. There I am, and she's filming, and the snow isn't hot at all. And that's always a real nice thing to find.
Where did that front come from? Did it come down from Canada? Or?
It came down from Canada.
All right.
And but what happened as we moved to the east and got into the Midwest, Hurricane Sandy's outer fringes were impacting the areas we were in. We ended up in Michigan, and there we had rain at one rainstorm at 77% above background and another at 70% above background, and that's from Hurricane Sandy. So I think that storm itself was fed in part by the jet stream, and it was very significant on the nuclear grid in the east, and we still have problems with a fire at a New York nuclear plant that burned for hours last night, and we had nuclear plants due to that storm shut down.
Right.
Indian Point up the Hudson River, very controversial complex north of New York City.
Right.
That was tripped offline due to the storm. There was problems at the oyster plant on the New Jersey coast.
Oyster Bay. It is said that Indian Point is the most dangerous, rickety, crappy nuclear power plant in the country.
And here we now have these superstorms seeming to come every year. And, this affected a whole bunch of plants up and down the coast. And I got to tell you, what happened was really bad. I mean, $20 billion at least in damage. And some places, really trash that are, it's just a real shame that it happened. And a lot of people think for a lot of different reasons, and I can understand why. But the point is, we've got these inside our own country disasters waiting to happen. If any one of these nuclear plants were to be inundated with floodwaters, that clog the intake pipes to bring the water into the plant to cool the nuclear reactors, which then, through the heat of reaction, cause steam, turn turbines, voila, electricity. If we have that happen, then we have a meltdown. And in a storm like Sandy that lingered a little bit, you have all that goo blowing in every direction. And it's no longer Fukushima, which is definitely affecting us. And we measured it. It's in our own country. I think it's somewhat terrifying, actually. People have addressed it. You know, it's typically the folks that have always pointed out the problems with nuclear power. But if you are a person who was affected by Hurricane Sandy and you can hear us now and you've got your power back and you're just up the road from a nuclear complex and it had problems, maybe at Peach Bottom, which lost 1/3 of its emergency alert sirens, can't even tell you there's a problem, or over in Michigan at the Palisades plant that is one of the worst in terms of safety records in the country, and there are these huge waves on Lake Michigan, which I saw, Jeff. I saw it with my own eyes. And I was about 5 miles away from the Palisades plant, and I was just crossing my fingers.
I'll bet you were. Oyster Creek, I said Oyster Bay. Oyster Creek came within 6 inches of losing its primary and only cooling for its spent fuel pool during Hurricane Sandy. That was just inches away from a major problem. It is said within 24 hours that had they not been able to get adequate and sufficient cooling reestablished, that whole spent fuel pool could have combusted, basically.
You know, I don't know whether people are just fatalistic about it, Jeff. Certainly the reaction to Fukushima and a quick dismissal by mainstream media and many folks to the reality of the dangers that it poses. If they just are fatalistic and figure, something bad's going to happen to me and my family, and I'm just going to have to roll with it. I actually don't think that people are like that in the whole. Not from the people I talked with all across this country. They all have hopes and dreams. And the fact is, when we read Oyster is okay, it's fine. Nothing got out. That's the way generally we see it in the media, and that's how it's processed. Well,
but what's the real bottom line here? The real bottom line is, even in the best of weather conditions and calm climate, every nuclear plant in this country releases tritium and other isotopes every day.
Oh, yeah. And tritium is a problem all around the country, heavy water, and actually being Veterans Day, and a big salute to our veterans, the service to our country, to the United States. It might be worth noting that tritium was around soldiers that we did nuclear experiments on. And there were experiments on American soldiers in Veterans Administration hospitals using radionuclides, on alcoholics, on minorities, on people who are perhaps not completely mentally normal. And this all happened and was admitted by the Clinton administration for activities that happened before the Clinton administration in 1996 in a huge report called the Human Radiation Experiment. And tritium was used at the Veterans Administration in Brentwood, California, very Tony area, very wealthy area, and a biomedical nuclear dump exists at the West LA Veterans Administration property, and it's still there, and it has tritium in it and other radionuclides and the carcasses of untold amount of animals that were experimented on. And waste products from experimenting on human people back about half a century ago. Now, you've just described all the lunacy of having this aging infrastructure of nuclear plants that literally has our country hostage. And we're just sort of signing off on it, not realizing that it's not just dangerous. These plants are old and they cost a lot. And while we're making electricity with the plants, people think, well, the electricity is basically free. I mean, look at that. The fuel doesn't, fuel, just keep using it. The cost of taking these things down, if they don't come down in a disaster, is enormous. And on our freeways right now in California, Jeff, there's a huge turbine from the San Onofre plant that's over 100 yards long, being driven slowly across the state to Clive, Utah for disposal.
Really? So they pulled one of them out of San Onofre?
Oh, yeah.
And put it on a truck?
A specially built vehicle.
Yeah, probably an enormous lowboy, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really quite impressive.
Interesting. All right. Hold on. No, don't hold on. I'm going to keep going with Michael. I want to make sure we get as much information from this man as we can. I didn't know they were doing this. I haven't seen any stories on it. I'm sure they must be up there. So San Onofre has how many reactors? Do we know?
It has 3 reactors.
Now it has 2.
Now it has 2.
Uh-huh.
One was taken out of service, and 2 others, and the state.
How in the hell did they get the thing out of the? That's amazing. And to put it on a truck in one piece.
It is in one piece. It's over 100 yards long. I have no idea how they got it out of the ground, and quietly, because San Onofre is right by a big freeway.
Oh, yeah.
Squished between a freeway and the sea.
Yeah, of course. I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of a reactor being yanked out of a plant and trucked away.
Well, it's not the reactor core. It's the generator. It's the generator. And it is what they say, slightly radioactive. Now, when you hear that, slightly radioactive.
Yeah, sure.
How slightly is it? Well, they have a worker in one TV segment on it, and the supervisor was standing there, and he said, well, if you were to stand next to this thing for an hour, it'd be the equivalent of a dental x-ray. Now,
and we believe that?
So that's why you have to take this thing through multiple states and do it only at night so as not to cause alarm and to make sure that you don't release the routes, because you don't want any bad guys coming and, taking this thing that's tens and tens of thousands of tons heavy. Now, to answer your question, I have seen it in video, and they actually built axles and wheels specifically for the thing to be inserted along it. And the distance between the front and back axles, there's no middle one, it's really quite enormous. And so it's very tall. How they're going to get it underpasses is beyond me. So it's just another part.
Well, they're going to have to take it through neighborhoods, surface streets, around. Obviously. But look at how many overpasses are there. This is wow. That's quite a scene. They just moved the space shuttle, which of course is quite tall, and had to do that. They moved the space shuttle and did the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They cut down over 400 trees when the nitwits who did that didn't realize the space shuttle is not going to be flown anymore. So because it was so wide because of the wings, they were going to have a big parade through L.A. They went through poor neighborhoods and cut down their only shade, saying, we'll grow a bunch of trees for every tree we cut down, and we'll kick you some scholarships, and you'll go away. When the fact is, you could just take the wings off the shuttle, and it's not going to fly anymore. Take the wings off the shuttle, put them back on, put some Bondo on, paint it, we're done. Not cut down a single tree. And guess what happened? Not only did they cut these trees down, they then prevented the people from coming to see it going by out of security concerns. What?
They wouldn't let the people of South Central and Baldwin Hills.
Security concerns for whom? That the locals would attack the space shuttle with rocks and baseball bats?
Well, or something worse. Absolute outrage. And it was done with no brain. You take the wings off. You don't mess around with any so-called parade. You just move it at night. You're done.
Of course.
But no, they went and destroyed miles and miles of trees. And, in a world that is so urban, the urban forest is invaluable.
That's priceless.
It's, for these people in that environment, even more important. We just keep making mistakes. We're now, people are up in arms over a PG&E seismic survey that they want to blast off big sonic waves off the coast near Diablo Canyon, which is the other nuclear reactor complex in the state of California, and they want to blast sonic waves against the subsurface to see if there's any chance of an earthquake. Well, first of all, I could have saved them a whole bunch of money by telling them, yes, there is. There's a really good chance of it because that's the nature of plate tectonics. But what's going to happen is over 7,000 marine animals are going to get hammered with these waves. Right. And we're talking about some of the coolest animals there are. And what can they do for themselves? They can't do anything.
Mostly
whales,
all the mammals,
sea otters, all because we're using a system to make energy that, boy, if something goes wrong, watch out.
That's quite a story about the shuttle. I didn't know that. Shame on Los Angeles.
Shame on all of us.
How dumb people can be. You take the wings off, you got no problem. It's people.
Beyond outrageous. Look, these guys are the rocket scientists. I mean, literally, you couldn't figure that one out. Oh, no, we can't touch the shuttle. Which, by the way, when you look at it, they left it as it was from its last flight. They didn't restore it. So it's got all these tiles blown off, and it's got char marks and stuff. Looks really cool. So what? It's like your car with Bondo. What, you can't take the doors off and then put them back on? Your car's already in Bondo. It's beyond outrageous. But I got to tell you,
all right, this large piece of equipment, 100 yards long, being rolled up on LA freeways and probably off. I guess they'll just take it off. Can you imagine how many light poles they'd have to take down, though, if it sticks out laterally? I don't know the dimensions of the thing, but this
doesn't stick out laterally too terribly wide. It's really tall. It's like a big tube, and it's painted cobalt blue, looks way wicked crazy. And it's, over 100 yards long. It's like 400 feet long. Now, I got to tell you something. As for the stuff that's happening in our country that we don't know about, we find out about, go, wait a minute, don't I get any say in this? No, actually, you don't. Not in that case. But you do have a say about what's over your head. And I got to tell you, Jeff, the thing that in this time of, great social involvement, big election, the whole thing, you got people right up on edge. And for good reason. But what really struck us coming back across the country, going through, over half a dozen states on our way back, and being observant people, Denise Ann is the editor of EnviroReporter.com. We know what's going on. Were the chemtrails. Now, we've talked about on Enviro Reporter how the mechanism of whatever they're spraying in the air brings to ground, brings to surface radioactive nuclides from the Fukushima triple meltdown. And what do we see the entire time? We see chemtrail spraying, Jeff, the likes of which I've never seen. So incredibly aggressive over Illinois, Indiana, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona. It was unbelievable. Stopped at California. Go figure. But the thing is, This is something right above our heads that we've shown on EnviroReporter.com will bring radionuclides to ground, which exposes the people that are listening to this to Fukushima radiation when normally they wouldn't be exposed to it. It just keeps circulating in the atmosphere and settle of its own accord, especially when you're in dry environments. And boy, we saw a lot of drought areas. This stuff is being brought to ground by whatever it is they're spraying. And this is not going to be a profound statement. And I'm not the first one to think it or to say it, Jeff, but I have to tell you, it's sabotage. It's sabotage right in front of all of our faces. Whatever is being done, for whatever reason, we have shown through science and journalism that that's bringing Fukushima radiation to ground. And I can't tell you how deeply disturbing and depressing it is to travel hundreds and thousands of miles seeing this and not having a single person go, hey, you from California, you see that? Do you know what that is? Not one.
No, the sheep don't ask many questions anymore. They just keep their heads down and continue munching.
That's right.
That's what they're told to do, and they do it. Michael, thank you very much for the update and the report. I'd like to see some pictures. If you do any posting, let me know.
Absolutely. It'll all be coming online the next couple of days and a whole bunch more.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Say hi to Denise. Thanks very much, Michael.
You bet. Thank you all.
All right. Okay, good night. All right, and we'll be right back, going to Japan, somewhere near Fukushima, possibly in Fukushima Prefecture, is Yoichi Shimatsu on his bicycle, trying to spread the word and help people understand what they can do to better protect themselves. We'll do that next.